are again with another Arknights Endfield video, and today, the purpose of this video is to try and explain to you how I think you can best enjoy the game. These reasons are solely grounded in my experience with the game, so to be honest, as I'm someone that hasn't whaled, there's a chance that whaling is more fun. But given the enjoyment I've had, I have reason to believe the way I'm playing the game might actually be a really good way for you to try, if you haven't already. Anyway, kicking us off with number 1 on the list is being free to play. I know. Many of you are already thinking of clicking off the video. But here's the thing, and I'm sure you've heard other content creators say it already, the game doesn't feel like it needs the gacha. Now, don't get me wrong, as someone who's played gacha games for many years now, I'm quite happy it's there. I do get some fun out of it, all whilst being completely free to play so it doesn't affect the wallet. But for those of you who are used to just pulling straight away on characters, I want you just to take a second to stop, think about it, and maybe you'll notice that the enjoyment you've got from the game so far maybe hasn't actually been from Levitain or whatever other limited character you've managed to pull, because for me personally, I know exactly where it's come from. But that's point number 2, so I don't want to get there just yet. Long story short, it's not that I think people that spend on the gacha can't enjoy the game, I just worry that they might miss the point. Gacha slop is always going to be gacha slop. It's always there for you in any other game if you wanted to. You know what else? The combat, visually appealing, looks beautiful. It's not actually that engaging though, I'll be completely honest. Other than in boss fights, I will give that one caveat. But I think we've only had about like 3 boss fights in the game so far, so it's not a big part. And then there's the story, which personally I just think is poorly presented. It might be well written, I don't actually know, because I've just been skipping it all because genuinely the dialogue, the voice acting, it's too hard to sit through. So where does that leave us? With the factory system.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Hey, so this might seem a little bit out of nowhere, kind of just jumped in there, but I realized after finishing the video that there was something I kind of forgot to say regarding the gacha. It is true that I don't think your focus should be necessarily just on the limited banner characters, but another reason for that I forgot to mention was that there are so many other good characters in the game that you can enjoy. However, that does kind of come with the caveat that you do have to play characters within their right team. For example, a team like this isn't going to be fun to play, even if you love all 4 of these characters. Reason being, because of elemental synergies. A lot of their kits rely quite heavily on other characters, so sadly this isn't really a game where you can just play whichever character you like. However, more to that point, maybe you should try the characters you don't like. If any of you watched my first summoning video, I really disliked Aviwana. And to be completely honest, I still don't really like her design all that much, other than the spears. The spears are very cool. And I almost let my dislike for her character design get in the way of how much fun she is to play. She is the main damage dealer for the electric team currently. There is no 6-star DPS for the electric team, so she is it. And without her, I would not have had a good way to play Arknight, which is my favourite character. And Perlica too, I originally didn't really like, and to be honest, her combat is still quite boring, but she amps up this team like crazy, and that is fun in its own right. And then of course I put Ember on the end of every single team because she gets really good heals, and have you seen her? So there is still some flexibility. She really doesn't fit into this team properly, but she still does a good job. But it's not just this team. We have this team over here too. This is full of ice synergy. I didn't like Alesh when I first saw him. I should say, I thought all of the art of Alesh is awesome, but his character in game was just kind of disappointing. However, when I got playing him, I actually thought, okay, he's pretty fun. As a matter of fact, we even have a Stella in this team, who is literally a 4-star. She is supposed to be the worst of the worst, so to speak, but she is really good. I know a lot of people actually use her in their Von teams too, so genuinely, she is good. And on top of that, there's this physical team too, which I haven't had the chance to try yet. I didn't want to, because again, I don't really like the panda. However, when I do eventually get enough resources, I will give it a go, and I'm sure I will enjoy it. So I guess there's sort of 2 side points in this. 1, don't necessarily be put off by a character's design so much. And 2, you can get lots and lots of fun, not from 6 stars. Anyway, back to Kato in the past, the original video that this is now part of. Now, some of you may have already guessed it, but point number 2 is that the factory must grow. That's right, for me, the number 1 thing I have enjoyed in this game is the factory system. However, there are many tutorials in this game, and the most elite players with far too much free time are going to read through every single word in those tutorials, and they're going to make incredible bases because they know exactly what they're doing. And if that's you, I have no beef. But let me be real, I don't have time for that. And I don't think the average person does either. So here's what I want you to do with those tutorials. Skip them. Skip every single one of them. Assuming they let you, because some of them they force you to sit through, sadly. But yeah, you're going to skip them, and you're going to learn it on the job. That's right, just figure it out by yourself, and do not copy someone's blueprint. I cannot tell you how many times I've been tempted to copy a blueprint myself. But in the end, I have sat down, I've taken the time to learn it, and it was satisfying. You were going to scroll through Twitter, you were going to see someone else's blueprint, and you were going to get FOMO because you know they are producing so much more profit than you are. It's a game. And to be honest, the profit doesn't matter that much. For example, let me show you around my base right now. I've got a ton of plants being produced. That's because so many blueprints need plants, and it is very frustrating, in particular these sandleaf. But then if we scroll further down, you can see I have some of these capsules being produced here, some of them being produced here. We have another one being produced here, a bunch of parts being produced here. The parts again are mainly for construction, but they do actually sell for a decent amount in the second base. I have absolutely no idea if this is optimal. In fact, I know that it is not. However, I still make a heck ton of profit every single day. I don't even know how much profit other bases make, and I'm glad I don't, because I'm probably missing out on some FOMO there. You just have to realize that there are hours of fun in figuring this out yourself, and if you just copy a blueprint, you miss all that out. But to be completely fair, I do think people will have different limits. Eventually you'll feel like you've learned enough, but you might just not have that little knack in your brain to figure out how to fully optimize things, and at that point, go for it. Use a blueprint. I'm probably going to do the same thing eventually. I'm not saying you're a criminal for using blueprints, I just think there is proper fun to be had by figuring it out yourself, at least the core fundamentals. I'm just asking you to give it a chance. And finally, point number 3, my final point for enjoying this game, is that you're going to have to commit. I do not believe that this is a side gacha game. I do believe this will become your main gacha game, at least on launch, if you enjoy it. And this is purely down to just how long it takes to learn. But remember that learning, I did say, is part of the fun. Now, to be completely honest, I do expect that this will slow down. Personally, just today, I finally started to feel that. I finally had the time to run through all the random missions that I picked up over the past week. My factory progression has started to feel limited by my daily profit, particularly in Wuling. To be honest, I do have a slight gripe with Wuling, where I think they've made the access to the depot bosses take far too long to get to. But aside from that, my characters are also starting to reach a point where I feel very limited by the stamina, which I could complain for hours and hours about how I hate the stamina system in almost every single gacha game. It's just reaching that point where the improvements feel more gradual and less impactful. Though granted, I am not someone that has put a lot of time and effort, in fact any time and effort, into the essence system, so I might be missing out a large part of the game there. That might make my progression feel quite amped up again. Side note, Arknights still the coolest character in the game, although Estella's visuals based around her personality might just rival her. Anyway, back to what we were saying. Yes, I feel like my base progression has slowed down. Yes, I feel like my character progression has slowed down. And I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, because now I don't have to sink every single day into this game. But it does still require quite a lot of attention because of things such as overworld resource farming, which by the way, I hate doing. There's also stock redistribution, which at first I really didn't like this friends marketplace, but admittedly I have started to enjoy it quite a lot. There are the depot nodes to do every day. I don't like these either, but it is worth the amount you get from them. There's also managing all of your resources and your outposts and eventually leveling them up. And then of course we can jump back over to the factory and talk about how every single day I need to upgrade this thing. And then of course there are many other characters that I still want to build up, including Snowshine here, who I do want to build into an ice team. I was using that at the start of the game, but they were lacking a little bit. Though since then I have pulled Jaihi, so potentially a little bit more synergy going there. But yeah, bringing it all back together. Third and final point was that you will probably have to commit to this game quite hard, especially in the early days. But there we go. Those are my 3 ways I think you can maybe enjoy the game a little bit more. Number 1, try focus less on the gacha and focus more on the factory. Number 2, don't take shortcuts with the factory, and if you really can't stand the tutorials, just skip them and figure it out by yourself. And number 3, be prepared to commit some good time to the game, especially in the early days. But also remember there's nothing competitive about these games, so you could just completely ignore that third point and just take it as it comes, go at your own pace. Or who knows, maybe you just ignore all 3 of these points, you spend all your money on the gacha, you steal some blueprints from Twitter, and you only log on anytime there's a new event. And you have a great time, and that is fine. I just thought, why not try share how I enjoy the game? If you made it this far, you may as well subscribe, let's be honest. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.